Hey everybody, Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon coming at you today with a few entitled parent stories. First one, hey, you can't park in a normal spot, you have a handicap placard. You have to park in the handicap spot. Let's jump right in. A long time ago, a friend of mine, Kabar, broke his left leg doing something stupid. It wasn't completely shattered, but he wasn't able to walk on it for quite a while. After some time, he got the go-ahead to drive from his doctor and got a temporary disabled parking permit for his car. At this point, he was using crutches. I went over to his place one day to hang out, read, play video games, and after a couple of hours, his wife called and asked how the shopping went. What shopping? Kabar asked. The dummy forgot that it was his turn to do the grocery shopping. Not really much of an excuse, he had done it once already when on crutches. So naturally, we stop playing and hop into his car and drive to the grocery store. As we're pulling into the parking lot, he goes for the front. I assume to park in the handicap spot, but he sees a regular spot open just next to the disabled spot and resigns to simply park there instead. He says, "I'm not that disabled, a wheeler might need that spot." He got this really weird high-pitched chuckle of a laugh. We get out of the car and all of a sudden this crazy lady in the car behind us starts honking and yelling. "Hey, you can't park there. There's a disabled spot right there," she screamed. Thinking she was confused, I said, "This is a normal parking spot. The disabled spot over there is free if you need it." Apparently, Crazy didn't like my assumption of her being disabled. "I'm not disabled, you retard. He is," pointing to Kabar. "I can see the handicap placard in your car. You have to move to the handicap spot. There aren't any other spots nearby, and I have my kids with me, and they don't want to walk that far." Kabar looks slightly hurt by her words, but responds, "Ma'am, yes, I do have a handicap permit, but I don't have to park in the handicap spot. I'm leaving it open in case someone with a greater disability arrives and needs to park, like someone in a wheelchair." "That doesn't matter," she pouts. "If you have a placard, you have to park there. It's the law." We were getting ready to just leave Crazy be when a cop car happened to enter the lot, fairly close to where we were. Crazy starts violently honking and flashing her lights to get the cop's attention, which she does as he flips on his lights and drives up to the area and gets out. "What the hell's going on here?" he demands. Crazy starts, "Officer, they're breaking the law. They're not parking in the handicap spot, but they have a handicap placard." The officer did the same thing I did. He assumed that she meant we were in the handicap spot without a placard. He turns to Kabar and says, "You have a handicap placard, son?" "Yes, sir, I do. But I'm not in a handicap spot. It's a normal parking spot." The officer looks at the spot and confirms that it is indeed a normal spot. He and Kabar quickly go over the events that transpired. The cop then goes to Crazy. "Ma'am, he doesn't have to park in the handicap spot just because he has a handicap placard. Now, I suggest you take your kids and leave these boys alone and go on about your day," he says, and stands there and waits for her to leave. She tries to say something, but the officer loudly says, "Have a nice day." Repeat 3 times. Crazy gets fed up and finally leaves, apparently without her groceries since she left the whole lot. We both thank the officer and he says, "Just don't mess up that leg again." I almost wish a wheeler user would have come at one point to punctuate the matter, but unfortunately that didn't happen. We got the shopping done and went home. We told the story to Kabar's wife when she got home and she said, "That's what you get for forgetting to do the grocery shopping." This was such a departure from the normal handicap spot stories that we see on Entitled Parents. Normally, it's somebody getting really upset that the person parking in the handicap spot doesn't look handicapped. The only thing that could have made this story better would be if Kabar got back into the car, took the handicap placard and placed it in the glove compartment, got out and said, "There, I corrected my error," and walked into the store. On to our second story. Entitled mother tries to ruin her daughter's wedding. Let's jump right in. This happened about 11 days ago during my stepdaughter's wedding and reception, with the entitled mother being her mother. Entitled mother has been an entitled mother for as long as I have known her, 20 years, but it's almost as if she was biding her time, waiting for this day to shine as the entitled mother she truly is. For context, This woman has cheated on every single man she's ever had a significant relationship with. When stepdaughter was planning the wedding, she was considering having 4 of the men in her life who had a major impact take turns walking her down the aisle. Entitled mother said, "You can't do that. It will make me look bad." Like, you did that to yourself. This is how delusional this woman is. Anyway, on to the story, or rather, 5 mini stories that happened throughout the day. Pre-ceremony, I sat in the left side front row, aisle seat, empty space to my left, and my son next to that space. My hubby, stepdaughter's father, was walking stepdaughter down the aisle, and I planned to move into the empty space so he could sit on the aisle seat after giving away the bride. As soon as I move over, entitled mother came out of nowhere and plopped her giant butt down in the aisle seat. I didn't want to make a scene during stepdaughter's wedding, so I just let it go. But I wanted to push her off the seat and tell her to get lost. She said, "They told me to sit here." There was no they, and nobody told her to sit there. Between the ceremony and the reception is when the professional photographs were taken. It took more than an hour. Not surprisingly, stepdaughter's 1-year-old son started to get impatient and hungry. Entitled mother set him in a high chair at her table and gave him a tray full of watermelon. What's wrong with this, you ask? The boy had been the ring bearer, so was needed for some of the photographs, and he was still wearing his white dress shirt. Stepdaughter was livid when the boy was brought over for his photos and was covered in bright pink stains. Because entitled mother is notorious for making things needlessly difficult, stepdaughter didn't want her involved in any of the wedding planning, including but not limited to decorating. The night prior to the wedding, stepdaughter set up the reception area exactly how she wanted it, so it was ready for the big day. A table near the dance floor included a rustic tree with photos hanging from it of loved ones who had passed and thus could not join the couple for their day. Stepdaughter specified that the memorial table was to be kept clear of any other items, so that the loved ones would be the focus. While the couple was having their photographs taken, entitled mother began her meddling. She removed a honeymoon fun box from the gifts and cards table and set it up on the memorial table, along with the leftover party favors, cheesy little foam camouflage can koozies, on the memorial table. Stepdaughter's dad and I couldn't keep quiet over this one and let stepdaughter know what entitled mother had done. Stepdaughter turned to me, once again livid, and said a simple, "Move them back." I replied with a knowing grin, "I thought so," and so we moved them back. Along the same lines, after she finished redecorating the memorial table, entitled mother did something that still boggles my mind. I get that she's the mother of the bride, but there are some things that even the mother of the bride just should not do. This woman had the audacity to rearrange the head table. The head table! The centerpiece of the reception. The place where most of the photographs would be taken during the reception. The table that the bride had decorated in exactly the way she wanted. Nope. Entitled mother decided she could do it better. Who does that? Finally, to top off the night, entitled mother had one last trick up her sleeve. Stepdaughter's 1-year-old son and 4-year-old daughter were going home with stepdad's dad, my hubby, and me to spend the week with us, while stepdaughter and her new hubby went on their honeymoon. It would be the first time for the little one to sleep over at our house. Because we knew it would be hard on him being someplace new in the first place, we wanted to make sure that he was actually tired and ready to sleep when we got home, so hopefully he would crash instead of lying awake crying. Nope. Entitled mother decided she knew better. She took the boy with her and sat down on a swinging bench, snuggled him up to her, and rocked him to sleep. It was about 8 p.m. at that point, and we wouldn't be getting the kids home until around 10 p.m. as it was, so having him sleep that close to bedtime meant he would never go back to sleep when it was time. I'd had enough. I'm surprised I was able to be kind, but I went up to her and said, "We don't want him sleeping now, or he won't sleep when we get him home." "But he hasn't slept all day." I realize that, but it's too close to bedtime now. He will be wide awake when he should be sleeping later. In a super fake honey sweet voice, "Oh, I didn't know." Okay, well, I'm not good at confrontation, so I just started to walk away. Next thing I see is stepdaughter looking angry and storming over towards entitled mother and me. For a moment, I thought she was mad I had said anything to her mother. I should have known better, because next thing I know, she's walking up to me with baby boy in her arms, and she says jokingly, "Next time I have to tell off my mother and take my kid away from her, don't walk away." We laugh and she hands me baby boy, who I snuggle with but keep awake until we pack up and leave an hour or so later. Entitled mother could then be found sulking on the bench swing, looking ever so sorry for herself after the tongue lashing I imagine stepdaughter gave her. Somehow, I couldn't make myself feel bad for her. As the saying goes, play stupid games, win stupid prizes. She played stupid games all day, and all she won was finding herself alone on a swing at the end of the day. I'm kinda sitting on the fence on this one. I know entitled mother wanted to be involved in the wedding, did some rearranging, and then had the kids sleep on her. But you have to think that this entitled mother was probably in a very overstimulated mode because her daughter was getting married that day. It's a big day, and sometimes your anxiety can just take over and you do things that you wouldn't normally do. Without more context, I would really hesitate to call this mother entitled. On to our final story. You have a cyst on your brain and can't work normal hours due to the pain? Watch my kid. Let's jump right in. As a bit of background, my aunt is only a few years older than I am. She married her husband several years ago, and they ended up having a kid together. I love my niece to pieces. She is the cutest and always melts my heart. That said, her parents leave much to be desired. For the past few years, I have been dealing with a chronic illness that ended up with me having to have several surgeries. My aunt and her husband have always acknowledged my issues, but usually find indifference, always wanting to know why I didn't hang out with or see them more often rather than how I was actually holding up. I just chalked it up to the fact that they didn't really quite understand what I was going through. This belief was destroyed when, several months ago, I was in a car crash and started experiencing intense migraines that happened without warning and seemingly without a cause. My migraines would usually hit around 1 p.m. and would last for the rest of the day. It reached the point where I was working part of the day at the office and finishing what I could at home. During this time, my family was updated with my progress and how I was doing. Eventually, I had an MRI done, and it was found that I had 2 benign cysts on my brain that was causing all of my pain and issues. Because of this, I was rarely up past 9:30 p.m. as I just wanted to sleep my pain away and wake up feeling slightly normal. This is important. My aunt and her husband are fairly well off, to the point where he doesn't think of anyone else except himself and his own selfish desires and will willingly rub his wealth into others' faces. She grew up in a fairly poor household, so she absolutely loves having money and the security that comes with it. I don't blame her, as I understand that feeling, but she allows it to take over. But no matter how much money they have, they are constantly looking for friends and family to provide free childcare so they can go out and drink with their friends. Here's where the entitled parent part comes in. While dealing with my medical problems that they were well aware of at this point, they texted me several times asking me to come over and watch their daughter while she slept so they could go out and party with friends at a local nightlife bar. "She'll be sleeping, you won't have to worry about anything. Just come over and stay until we come home around midnight or so. It'll be really easy." I would gently remind them that I go to bed around 9:30, that midnight is way too late for me to be up, and that I have a hard enough time taking care of myself without my boyfriend helping out, let alone imagine being responsible for a 2-year-old. I ended up having surgery to drain one of the cysts last week, to which I sent my aunt a photo of me the day before, and she replied with, "You look really pretty for someone apparently having surgery tomorrow." I mean, what? And thought that this would finally be the end of the free babysitting questions. I mean, brain surgery. Am I right? Who in their right mind would ask someone who just had brain surgery to watch their child while they're healing? You guessed it. 2 days after I had been discharged from the hospital, 5 days after my surgery, I saw her husband. Granted, I was definitely hopped up on pain meds and looking really well for someone who just went through what I did, but that doesn't excuse any of his behavior. We were talking about how I was told by my doctor to keep active and moving to reduce the risk of blood clots, and he looks at me and we have the following conversation. Hey, you can go on walks with Aunt, I'm sure she would love that. That's a great idea, I would love to spend more time with her. You guys can even take the kid on walks with you. Even better, we can get some real bonding time in. You know, you can even take the kid by yourself so we can have a break and do things without her. Don't worry, she's a really smart 2-year-old. She knows the difference between pretend ouchies and real ouchies. It's perfect. No. I ended up texting my aunt later that day to clarify that I would, 1, love to spend time with her walking, but it would be on my terms near my home, where I could easily return and be comfortable if things started to feel too overwhelming or if my pain was too much. And 2, I would under no circumstances be watching her child during my healing process. I don't care how smart she is, I can't run after her. I can't pick her up. I wouldn't even be able to drive her to the hospital if something happened. Not to mention that if something happened to me while watching her, she wouldn't know what was happening, what to do, or know to call 911, and I'm not willing to risk traumatizing a child because her parents wanted to go out and have a drink with friends. I don't care if there is a 99% chance that she'll be asleep the entire time I'm there. I'm not willing to risk the 1% chance that something does happen. And the fact that you're willing to take that risk says a lot about you as a parent. So I can understand that sometimes you need somebody to look after your kids. That's a thing that happens, and usually it's for a meeting or an appointment or something like that. But in this case, it's because they want to go out drinking. In recovery or not, OP has absolutely no obligation to do this for them. I wish OP the best for their recovery, and I look forward to more stories from them on Reddit. I want to thank all 3 of the OPs for posting their stories to the Entitled Parents subreddit. You can visit them at the links in the description below. Please go there and give them an upvote. Once again, this is Rob from Karma Comment Chameleon saying thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and share it with your friends, and we'll see you in the next one.